Hi Mimma, lovely to see you. Nice to be talking about Fashion Week again.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do this with you. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and I think it was quite an impressive week or 10 days, I should say. I feel like this was the first time that I felt that the digital was equally as good as the physical shows. I had such an energy from a lot of the collections. Some of these collections were some of the best I've seen from the designers. I just felt really impressed with Paris Fashion Week this time around. How did you feel? Are you as gushy as I am?
Yeah, it's funny. I couldn't agree more on the fact that after 1 year practically of isolation, designers have become incredibly creative, and they have thought about their collection also as well. And we have seen some very interesting things, some things that have moved forward and changed and evolved, which is very good. However, for once, I was more enthusiastic about Milan, let alone London, which is still one of my favorites. You know me, I love working with young upcoming brands, and London is the cradle for that. But yeah, I mean, I haven't had, apart from one or two that we're going to say, as many things that have like, oh, wow, wowed me as much as Milan.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Okay. So remind me again, who did you love in Milan? It was...
Well, probably Valentino and Prada among the established. I didn't like, well, Chanel, everybody knows what I think about Chanel, but I didn't like Dior as much as Valentino and Prada. I must say, I love this Louis Vuitton show that we just saw. I can use a bad, strong word, but I almost hated Miu Miu.
Oh no, I loved Miu Miu.
Yeah, I was sure. I mean, I know maybe it's a generational thing, but you know, I was talking to a quite famous designer today, who's a friend that will remain unnamed, because he said to me, if you say it, I'll kill you. But he said to me that it looked to him like a student collection. So it's probably a generational thing. I really didn't.
I can understand that narrative, but I thought it was so good. I love the whole presentation, the colors, the fact it was like lingerie meets outerwear, which is so on the nose, but it definitely felt like they were tailoring it to a young, I mean, Miu Miu is tailored to a slightly younger generation anyway, but
I mean, like furry shoes with lingerie evening dresses in the snow with girls almost naked. Of course, it was catering to young people. And I'm honestly, that's not what shocked me. I get it. It's fun. I hope that they were inside and that was all digitally do, because otherwise they will die of cold.
I know, I was worried for them too.
But, and you know, and that's a personal taste that I'm not very fan of lingerie anyway. And there was some beautiful tailoring, but those big puffer.
Were you more taken with Thom Browne's version of skiing?
I did. What I didn't I didn't put Thom Browne between my favorite, even if I thought it was spectacular, and I didn't dislike the fact that Lindsey Vonn was skiing down a mountain, and you know, and I love skiing, so that made me feel like I want to go skiing. I just wonder how relevant those clothes really are, you know, in a time where people are struggling to stay afloat. I mean, if you compare with the Rick Owens, which was one of my favorite show of the season, it's as bonker and it was as crazy and closer to couture than ready to wear, but you can still see behind the styling that you can buy it and wear it, you know. And I thought there were some outstanding pieces, whilst Thom Browne, it was bonkers, beautiful, very interesting. Is it wearable at all, and does it still matter? I think it does. So that was my little bit of a problem, but I wouldn't compare with Miu Miu. I loved it. You know?
I think you're right in saying Rick has that commercial appeal no matter how many layers you take off. Whereas Thom Browne, this particular Thom Browne presentation, we know that everyone's moving away from loungewear and into this kind of glamour and opulence, but that almost feels like such an upper echelon of garment that it's gone too far the other way.
So you agree with me?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. So Rick Owens, let's talk about Rick, because that was really.
Well, Rick, I put in the one that made me emotional, and I'm going to mention them because I think there's something that is consistent. Dries, I probably put Dries Van Noten video especially. I mean, I love the collection. I think it's one of his best, as far as I'm concerned. But that dancing video was just mesmerizing. I loved Rick. It was powerful. It was just spectacular. What made me happy, like you said about Miu Miu, was PACO Rabanne, the jumping on the bed. And I read today that he was thinking about when you're a teenager and you have a curfew, because they had a curfew in Paris at 6 o'clock. And so you're jumping up and down your bed with your parents' clothes, thinking when I'll be able to go out. And I felt all of that, and it made me so happy. And I so loved that collection. And then among the young upcoming, I thought THEBE MAGUGU again did a fantastic film with a very important message, was beautiful and beautiful clothes. Marine Serre, and we could talk for hours about her, and Esther Manas. I mean, that film, and I interviewed them for those that have seen it, that film took my heart completely, you know, on Women's Day, those beautiful women of all shapes and ages and form, and that was so relevant and so contemporary, which I thought some other brand that have the means to are just not, you know, good clothes, it's not enough anymore.
Yeah, there was such an emotive connection, as you said. I felt exactly the same for almost all of those. Dries, I love the video, but I actually thought the images as a standalone were stunning. They'd taken kind of beautiful shots from the dance, and I thought that the dance was gorgeous, but the standalone images, I think they're Jürgen Teller, were just spectacular, so beautiful. Marine Serre, I, again, as you say, could wax lyrical about Marine Serre for hours because I love her so much, but I was really impressed that she moved away from this kind of dystopian apocalypse, but it was much more community-led, and I think that's where everyone succeeded this week, is when it was truly personal, relatable, emotive, and, as you say of Esther, of the times, something that was true to themselves, but finger on the pulse at the same time. I also wanted to spotlight Ottolinger, because for me, that was one of the best shows of the week. I thought it was so
the collection.
good.
Yeah, also the collection itself, it's very strong. And I told them, I interviewed them too.
Yes.
This is probably their best collection to date.
I agree. I thought it was just so good. So good. The accessories, the footwear, it was so strong. Same with Rick. Both of them, I just felt this amazing kind of power source, like emulating from the screen, as well as just beautiful fashion, beautiful fashion. I thought Chanel was an improvement, but still not quite what I'm looking for.
Well, let's talk 2 minutes about that. I thought Chanel was an improvement in the sense that it was a tiny bit younger, but I had that feeling of the 80s, and already is not my favorite era, especially in the style, but I was thinking, and this doesn't sound very good, but while I was watching, I was thinking, for me, the worst nightmare is getting to a nightclub with 80 girls dressed in Chanel. You know, it's really not my cup of tea. So that's a little bit subjective, but I still think that she's getting there. It's more her Chanel than Carl Chanel, but I mean, that French bourgeoise, I mean, the way, here it is, the way Julien Dossena did French bourgeoise, you know, à la Buñuel, as he said, for Paco Rabanne. It's so modern and relevant. The way VR does it for Chanel, and not many people will say that, because Chanel is such a powerful commercial force, but we're not linked to them. So I can say, I don't think it's modern.
I also think if such a traditional house of Chanel is channeling 80s, which is already quite hard to do, unless you're VUITTON, do with a modern spin, you know, you're getting in a trap of you're trapping yourself in a dated chasm, basically. I wanted to bring up, while we're on a kind of train of things that weren't quite right, Givenchy.
That was my next to discuss.
Which I was
I
was quite disappointed with. I think Matthew Williams is really talented, and I really love what he does for Alix, and I just was waiting for those accessories and that leather to translate to Givenchy, because I thought there was some kind of, I mean, what we saw in the lookbook last collection wasn't hugely inspiring, but I thought this to me read a little bit like Riccardo's Burberry in the way it was missing the mark, just so not right. And the exposed boobs, and it was trying to
I'm so glad you say that. I'm so glad you say that.
Yeah, not for me at all. And
I read that he was thinking, because he knew he was going to be criticized for that. He said, oh, I uncovered men last season and I think this is women empowerment. Women empowerment cannot come from a man making them expose their boobs. That's the opposite of women empowerment. And it's like, you know what I think about what Matt is doing? He's trying too hard.
Yeah.
And that for me is not the sign of a big talent, because when you are really naturally talented, you don't need to try too hard. You just go out with what you believe is right. While here, I have the feeling he's trying to please his friend designers, the critics, the public, his CEO, and I can feel that. And that's so disturbing. And by the way, the fact that he does practically armadillos shoes, I thought that was a big mistake. That offended me profoundly.
I think it offended a lot of people. For me, it feels like a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
I think they have that with Alix. The leather dresses, the tailoring in Alix is good. It's great, and the accessories they fit that criteria of trendy music, hip hop artists, and it spans a far reach. You know, from Bella Hadid to A$AP Rocky to whoever. And I was really expecting that to come in the Givenchy vein.
Then also, you know, the water on the floor that Demna has done before. There was a few things that I'm like, oh, you're trying too hard.
Yeah, yeah. I have hope, but this collection didn't give it to me.
No, exactly. But I wanted to mention one thing that I read your review and I loved and thought was so right, and you didn't, and is Chloe by Gabriela Hearst. And I want to tell you why I loved it. And it doesn't matter if it's my cup of tea or not. I mean, I'm obviously not, you know, a hippie chic kind of style person, but I thought it was so right. Like, we've waited that for Chloe for so long now that I think she has brought it, apart from the fact that I adore the fact that most of it was recycled, upcycled, the bag from, you know, all of that people have read already. I don't need to go into that. And that's very important. For me, that's a sign of modernity more than many other things, you know, like really making an effort to be almost 100% sustainable. That's a sign of modernity. But also what I loved is that, and that shows self-assurance, she did something right for Chloe, but it was very much her style as well. And I don't think she tried too hard. I really applauded that, and you didn't.
I'm 50-50, so I love Gabriela's appointment at Chloe. I think that's a match made in heaven. I agree with you. I think the upcycling is wonderful. Not sure how that's going to work in a production sense, because she was upcycling old Chloe. So I guess there'll be one-off pieces. There's so much fun Chloe stuff in the archive that I was really hoping Gabriela would bring out. But it was slightly too, not twee, but just a little
8 weeks. 8 weeks. Between signature to that, 8 weeks. So I hear you for that, but I don't even think she could really dive into it.
I understand that. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was a bit neutral for me.
And what did you think of Balmain? New stylist as well, chaos.
New stylist.
Charlotte and Katie.
I think it was fun, and I really liked the whole presentation, as I said, with the plane. I think it was a really kind of an antidote for now. But I disconnect with Balmain, particularly Olivier's Balmain. I find it quite difficult. But I think this was probably one of the better ones we've seen from him.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can see the power of a good modern stylist, because, like it or not, Katie and Charlotte are very good at, you know, especially at working with something that it's there. And, you know, I love the idea of the plane, the hangar, the need of flying, going away, etc. Balmain is not for me, so there's nothing that really makes me last over, but I think it was quite a stronger collection than usual. I just think it needed some editing, bit too long, a bit too much. You don't need that much, because then it got a little bit in all direction, you know. It started very strongly, very well, and then by the end I was a bit bored. I absolutely adored the music by Phil Glass. People were writing, I hate this music, worst. I thought it was the best of all of it, but you know, that's experiential music from my time, and I thought that brought back so many things. I thought it was so right, so right. But yeah, I mean, an improvement there. Which, talking about relevant, shall we talk about Courage with all those skinny girls walking in a white cube, like in the, I don't know, 2002?
Yeah,
I was like, for God's sake, no.
I feel like Courage was a little bit of a repeat. I feel like I've seen that before. It's a bit of a deja vu for me. I did like, but I did like some of the silhouettes and some of the finishes on the trousers. I thought were quite nice, but it wasn't anything particularly
memorable.
Yes, nothing particularly to write home about.
But you know, I also think that when you're young, you can't give me those only, no, you can give them to me, but only those model-looking models of the, you know, the time of Nicholas at Balenciaga, which was really 2005, and it was right at the time, and put them in a white cube. It's, I mean, it's so irrelevant today.
Yeah.
What are you telling me? Then I don't even remember the collection because I was so upset while I was watching it, you know?
Yeah, I think this season that's really kind of separated the wheat from the chaff, is those who have the finger on the pulse. I think there's no hiding behind a fashion film or a show or these things anymore. It's
on the contrary.
Really, yeah, it really shows who's.
What about LOEWE?
Love LOEWE. Absolutely loved LOEWE. It was so beautiful, and also Freya Bayer Eriksson is one of my favorites of all time.
It was perfect, it was relevant, it was modern, yet right for the LOEWE public, that it can be too bonkers, you know. I think he's doing such a good job also in the way he discusses fashions and he presents it, and the ideas he has, he sends to I think kudos to Jonathan Anderson. He's doing such a good job.
Absolutely. It was so spectacular. I love that collection.
We haven't said anything about Dior.
Yeah. I are not particularly enthused with Dior, but I did like the overall presentation, the kind of dark, moody. I hate saying, I feel like we've said it a lot, but it was a slight improvement compared to past seasons. And I think this was probably the collection I preferred the most that she's done.
Me too. I actually liked it. Well, first of all, how do you call it? The mirror room, the mirror hall in Versailles, so beautiful that, and I sort of like the fact that they cover the mirror, put spikes in it. There's a whole meaning that it's quite profound and believable this time. Sometimes I don't believe her. This time I did. And I actually like the fashion a little bit, fantasy meets commerce in a way. I thought it was clever, and there were some beautiful pieces. I liked it more than any other presentations, films that she's done with Garrone that I never liked.
Yeah.
And collection, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the best she's done. And there were a few pieces that I have my eye on.
And I would like just to mention one of my new favorite people that I met him for something else, but the young Germanier, whose brand is called Germanier. You probably, I don't know if you even saw it, but he's very sustainable in his approach, which I think is good. He uses a lot of sparkly. I mean, he's a little bit the king of beads and Swarovski crystals, and he has these knitwear that are knitted by his grandmother. By the way, he's from Switzerland, so people will think that that's why I'm talking about him, but he has this knitwear from his grandmother and the friends of his grandmother that are very beautiful, and I think he's someone he's a young one to look and to check and follow, because I think he did something quite interesting.
Yeah, I love his designs. I didn't actually catch him this season, but I will definitely make a note to do that, because I think he's definitely one to watch. But
And he's happy. He's always happy, and that's great.
There's a joy. We must talk about Coperni as well, because
Yes.
they had a lot of glitter and sparkles this season, more so than usual, I think. And I was particularly taken with their sheer embroidered dresses. I think Mika was wearing one of their sheer tops. And
That's the best look, I think, Mika's.
I think so, yeah, absolutely gorgeous. And I love their whole move to kind of apple leathers and a slightly more sustainable fabric as well. I just think it was a really, really great collection. I think one of their best.
I think they're very modern in their collections. They have this modern approach to young, beautiful girls' fashion. It's a type of girl, again, you know, but that's very French as well. I like the tailoring. I think I have some, and I think it's very well made, which is good because it's not always the case. And I like them. Yeah, it's very young. It's more for, you know, your generation than mine, but it's very wearable and it's well cut, and their trousers and jackets are interesting, and they have some good ideas. I think their accessories are very strong and they're doing very, very well. They had some beautiful boots this season, which is interesting. Talking about boots, sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but there's a lot of big outerwear. Is that the core fashion? I mean, there's a lot of we're going to be freezing cold in everyone, you know, boots and coats and scarves and doudoune, like they call them in French, you know, the puffer jackets, right?
I think it's outerwear. That kind of outerwear, practical outerwear, has rocketed in part because of core trends and stuff like that. And I think half of it is trying to answer to that. Part of it is also how many more entry-level accessories can we get in a collection, because we don't know how financially stable everyone is. Can we work a few scarves in there? And also I think it's kind of, again, on the one hand we have glamour and going out, and on the other hand, not everyone likes the nightclub. Some people's going out is being able to hike a mountain, or etc., etc., etc. So I think
there is a lot of out.
Yes,
there's obviously need of out, any kind of out, you know, even naked on the snow. So yeah, but overall, I mean, and a last word about the last show that we just saw today. I thought it was one of the strongest collection of Nicolas at Louis Vuitton.
I agree.
And it could have been his own brand. And I didn't read any press release, so I don't know anything about the materials and you know, it looked very rich and very well made and very whatever, but I don't know what it was made for, but it looked so good. It was so desirable.
I absolutely love the silhouettes, the kind of bauble skirts, the shapes that are so quintessentially Nicolas, that whole self-referential thing that Nicolas does so well, where it's looking at the archive without feeling contrived, or it was so good. The only thing that I didn't like was the fauna
yeah, not my favorite, but it was well done. I thought that there were like 3 dresses coming out one after the other in A-line, which is the very A-line that I always love, that he does, I think, better than anybody else. And as you say, you know, self-referential, and to go back to, I don't even remember who we were talking about self-assurance and focus, and this is who I am. Well, he's the master of that, and that's real talent.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to say. I think he's one of the most talented. And also because he's so focused, he's so convinced about his direction, and he's so modern. I really, really loved it more than many other collections he's shown at Vuitton. I mean, I was always a big fan, and I have some amazing pieces from his time at Balenciaga, and I found the same love and enthusiasm for his designs that I had at the time. So kudos.
Yeah, it was a beautiful way to end Paris. Just such a brilliant show. So overall, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think I said all I wanted to say.
That's good. I think it's been quite an astounding Paris Fashion Week, considering the odds, considering everything. And I'm just wholly impressed, really.
For me, the whole month was above my expectations, because I was a little bit, not afraid of, but I was thinking maybe, you know, they've been secluded and inside for all this time. There's going to be reference to all the shows that we've seen on Netflix and on Prime, you know. Actually not. They have all, they by the designer, circus, they've taken out the best creativity. These young people have done amazing films and they've spoken about what's going on in the war so beautifully. And, you know, top designers have given us beautiful fashion we're looking forward to when we go out again. And yeah, it's been a strong month.
It's been so lovely to chat to you, Mimma, this time and for the whole month. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you, Georgie. See you soon. Bye.